Hey, are you in the class of 2023 or the class of 2024 and applying to college and wondering, hey, do I need a test score when I apply? In this video, I'm going to talk about the recent press releases that have come out from colleges and universities on whether they're going to be test optional during fall of 2022 application season and fall of 2023 application seasons. So if you are currently a sophomore or junior, stay tuned. If you're wondering who I am, my name is Brooke. I've been doing independent college consulting for over a decade and a half. I also have a couple of courses for the SAT and the ACT. You can check those out at SupertutorTV.com. We have books for the ACT math section. You can find those also at SupertutorTV.com. We're going to be coming out with some essay courses soon, so be sure to stay tuned to our channel and to our mailing list if you're interested in those. SupertutorTV.com/subscribe. Finally, we have private tutors and essay coaches if you're looking for help in the college admissions process. You can find all that at SupertutorTV.com/tutoring. Finally, check out the blog that goes with this video. We have an awesome data chart that shows you all the data that we've collected so that you can see what we've found and discovered, and we will be updating that data chart. So as new information comes out, we will update it, and then you can find out even more than you can find out from watching this video, which is super exciting. Cool. So first, for those of you who are planning to apply to college in the 2022 to 2023 admission cycle, that's the class of 2023 if you're going straight into college, seniors. Let's talk about what the top 200 universities in the United States have announced in terms of their plans for testing policies and requirements. We found that 63.5%, the biggest amount, are going to be test optional, test flexible, or test suggested schools. These are schools where you can still submit a score and that can potentially help your application, but you're not absolutely required to submit it. 5.5% of colleges have said that tests are required. So far, state schools in Georgia and Florida, namely, are requiring the test overall. Georgetown is another notable add to the test required pile. 8.5% of these schools are going to be test blind, namely the University of California system and a few others. And 22.5% of colleges and universities have still not announced their policies. Isn't that nice when your SAT is coming up around the corner and you're not sure if it's going to count or not? Yeah. So we don't know about those schools. My prediction on this is most of these schools are probably holding out because they want to see how COVID goes. i.e. these schools really would like to see your test score, but they haven't made any official announcements because they want to see how the pandemic pans out and they don't want to require a test of people who don't have access to the exam. That's my guess. The other prediction that I have for this 22.5% that hasn't announced yet is I'm guessing we're going to start to see more migration to the middle. I have a whole video on this, which is this like test flexible, test recommended kind of pile, which isn't quite test optional and it isn't quite test required. And what do you do with that? That's where I'm guessing a good swath of this 22.5% is going to rotate toward or gravitate toward. So time will tell and we'll kind of see how things land. But I know recently Yale announced that they really want you to send your test score if you can. MIT also announced and said, hey, send your test score if you've got one. I also think that we're potentially going to be entering a phase where we see a difference in admit rates, whether people submit their test scores or not. Obviously, during a pandemic, one of the biggest reasons that people didn't submit their scores last time around was that they didn't have the opportunity to take it, right? I have many students in California whose tests were canceled 2, 3, 4 times over. And how frustrating is that as a student? Not only is it frustrating, but you also couldn't get a score. So I have many students that are in those kind of predicaments, or to take the test meant traveling to Nevada or doing some drastic, expensive measures, right? Colleges and universities know not everybody can do that. But test availability has increased greatly since our last admission season, and that's probably no longer going to be as much of an issue, especially now that we have widespread vaccines, even for those under the age of 18. As a result, what we're probably looking at is, like I said, this sort of gravitation toward you better send a test score. Now, here's what I think is also going to happen. As these schools like Yale and MIT start adopting these policies of please send us your test score if you have them, if you don't give any excuses and you don't explain why you didn't send your test score, and you're not from an underrepresented kind of group, or you're not from a context where test prep doesn't really make a lot of sense, I think we're going to see these schools discriminating against people without test scores more often. I realize they didn't do it very much during the pandemic, but I think that's going to kind of become the norm for a lot of these schools where you can opt out of the test, but it might start to hurt you. Next, let's talk about the class of 2024. If you are going to be a senior in the 2023 to 2024 school year, that means right now you're a sophomore, And you're wondering, Brooke, do I have to take the SAT or the ACT? Well, I'm going to talk to you guys too. Now, obviously, we're quite a ways out, and colleges and universities can change their policies at any time, as we've seen them do many times over the course of the pandemic. But 38.5% of schools so far have announced that they will either remain test optional, test blind, test suggested, or test flexible through that period. So if you have a phobia of tests, guess what? You're going to be fine, and you can go to a great school that's in the top 200. But, caveat, I will say this. Over half of schools have not yet announced their policies for fall of 2023. So if you were in that class and you were thinking about testing, I would still recommend that you prepare. And as I've mentioned before, I still recommend that you try these tests and you try to prepare, because at many schools, they will help you, right? Having a test score can be a benefit. Why would they look at it if it's not potentially to benefit you guys, right? It wouldn't be just to nix you. I don't think they're just trying to disqualify you. I think they're also trying to potentially qualify you. So if you can prove yourself at the test, that can help you stand out against other candidates, and I recommend that you do so. Now, I will also give a caveat, which is that sometimes you've got to read the fine print. So I know I gave these percentages in mass, but you need to be careful about fine print, because some colleges and universities are going to require test scores if your GPA is below a certain level. This is particularly true of state universities. For example, University of Arkansas is test optional, flexible, or test required depending on your GPA. So if your GPA is not that great, a test score could kind of make up for that there. The other thing that I'm going to say is many universities are still using test scores to qualify for scholarships. University of Mississippi, for example, has stated that SAT and ACT scores are still very important for scholarships, some aid programs, and for academic placement. So it doesn't mean that you should be throwing these tests out the window. And that's about all I've got for today. So I hope you guys like this video. If so, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't yet. And again, check out the blog that goes with this video. We're going to be updating that chart as the results come in. And as these percentages shift, our blog and our data table will update. So make sure you stay tuned for the latest data. Go to our website. Links in the description. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you all next time. Take care. Bye-bye.